evening, everyone. Welcome to the first edition of UpStart Trivandrum. I'm Hansa, I'm your host for the evening. PayU, as you all know, is one of the leading payment service providers right across sectors like airlines, SMBs, and of course the startup community. So, UpStart and CodeUp is a series that we do under our startup outreach program. This is a way for us to give back to the community that has helped our founders grow to this extent. So, yes, so UpStart. Today's session is an UpStart. So UpStart is a series which we conduct for startup entrepreneurs where other successful entrepreneurs come and talk to you about various topics. It may be starting up, for that matter. For today's topic is starting up, maybe marketing, sales, etc. And CodeUp is a series that we do exclusively for developers where other subject experts come and talk to us about certain training topics that we like to cover. So today's session is an UpStart and starting up to scaling up. Our first speaker for the evening is Panicker. He's the Chief Product Officer at Finance. Our second speaker for the evening is Sandeep Balaji. He's the founder at Zero Business Solutions. Our third speaker for the evening is Manoj. He's the founder director at BoxOp Solutions. Our final speaker for the evening is Aardra Chandra Mouli. She's the founder and MD at Biochemicals. So without further delay, over to you, Robin.
Good evening. Good evening. So about myself, this is what I am. I'm a software engineer. I used to architect solutions for enterprise software and for web application servers. So in case you have visited US and you are on AT&T network and you have done a period call, it goes through my code. Right now, handling product at Finance. Finance is a mobile SDK that identifies the bugs in mobile apps and sends the report to the developer. And with all the relevant data, that developer can use to reproduce the bug. We have some early traction with majors. A couple of them are doing their early trials right now. I'm an occasional investor in startups. I've invested around 7 startups till date. A couple of them, like the event ticketing platform Explorer, Bill Next, I think, which is incubated in Startup Mission. Profound is which got acquired by Full. So that's my investment background. Okay, so the topic for the day is scaling. Before going in detail, I would like to know a bit about your background. So, how many of you are tech people? Okay. How many of you are? I assume most of you are into the business side of the startup. Okay. So, I'm going to talk a bit about scaling up on the tech side and touch upon a bit on the business side, because I believe speakers coming after me will talk in detail about the business side of it. Okay, so why scale up? Why do we need to scale? What's the reason for scaling? So everyone has their own reasons, and if you are a startup, these are your stakeholders, investors, customers, your employees. So all of them will love scaling, right? So for investors, scaling up is very important because that multiplies the money they have invested in your startup. Right? Without scaling up, they don't get the return. They don't get the multiple that they are looking for. So investors love it. Customers, yes. So usually, a startup that is successful in scaling up attracts more customers, right? Because that builds the customer trust, and dropout rate of customers will be less if your startup is scaling up pretty fast. That builds confidence in the customers, right? nobody wants to use a tool that nobody else uses. So scaling up is important for customers and for employees, obviously, right? I mean, you don't want to be a story which is not growing. Right? Everyone would love to be part of the growth story. So employees love that. And the primary reason why we need to scale up is to multiply wealth, because that is the dharma of business. Otherwise, there is no reason for you to be in business. So you need to create wealth, you have to multiply wealth. And that can be achieved only through scaling up. Sorry. Okay, so I've seen many startups that are not attempting to scale up. They probably want to scale up, but they are not doing any attempt. There are two reasons for that. One is founders enjoy a comfort zone. Right? You start a B2C venture in Trivandrum, you are comfortable with this market, you probably start the next one in Kochi, and then that's it. You don't want to go to the Bangalore or the Chennai. You are comfortable here, right? You end up building a lifestyle business. You know what's lifestyle business, right? I mean, it just satisfies your primary needs and you get your clothing, your salary, your basic needs done. You have no more agenda other than that. So that is a lifestyle business. So people get into this comfort zone and that's it. They forget about scaling up. And second thing is the fear of unknown. Right? You want to scale up, but you are not sure. Okay, it's a very attractive dream to be there, but I'm not sure about the pain I have to take to do the scale up. Right? So the fear of unknown that kicks in. I've seen it many times in startups, and especially startups in Kerala. I'm getting a bit critical here because Startup Mission provides a wonderful facility and they provide some brand and all those things. So you easily get into a comfort zone. Right? So that's these are two reasons I see in startups why they don't attempt scaling. Okay, now let's get into the other aspect on how to scale up. Think logical, right? So a couple of days back, I met a startup. It's a student startup, by the way. So we can pardon them for the scene that way. The pitch deck said that they want to acquire 1 million users. I mean, I'm not lying because I have my friends also sitting here who have seen that. 1 million, they want to acquire 1 million users in 1 year. And the business plan said that they are going to make a revenue of 1.25 crores and an expense of 70 lakhs. That means around more than 50 lakhs profit in the first year. This is for a B2C startup. It's not logical. If they achieve it, that's the first time any startup across the world have done it. Right? Nobody has done it before. So you have to think logically. There need to be logic in your objectives. Then only you can have a implementable scale-up plan. So please don't get confused. You need to attempt illogical things. Before explaining further, I hope you all know about Aardra, right? Yes. Who is he?
Y Combinator.
Yeah, he is the co-founder of Y Combinator, right? Founder of BioWeb. So here he writes essays. They are long articles. So when you have nothing else to do on a Sunday morning, this is one thing that you can attempt, reading his essays. And they are very informative. So one of the essays is do things that don't scale. If we are talking about scale, and he is advising us do things that don't scale. So how is that possible? So he gives a lot of examples, like the Airbnb. So okay, Airbnb as of today, Airbnb has more rooms than any other hotel groups in the world within a span of 7-8 years, right? So they achieved that. So that's scale. But how did they start? How did they do it? They actually went door to door and did the selling. So that is illogical, right? When you want to scale, you want to attempt things that you think can produce scale. But they did this door to door selling to achieve the scale that they have today. It could be confusing for you. Please read this essay. Please read this. That's why I said you need to think logical, but you have to attempt illogical things. Many times we start forgetting the basics, right? For Airbnb, selling door to door, most of the startups you won't do it. I mean, if you are a startup like Airbnb, you won't even think about doing that, right? Going and enrolling rooms, going to co-op, going to work, all those places. No. So yeah, but they result in illogical growth. That's the growth. As I said earlier, okay, I think I've mentioned it a couple of times before when I got opportunities to talk to startups. Can anyone tell me what's the definition of a startup? What's the difference between your business and the guy running a particular infoproduct? Am I confusing you guys or?
It's a good product or service.
It's the idea behind what you start.
Twitter is a 128 character text box. It's a great idea.
Something that solves or something is
So basically, this is my definition. Okay, you can disagree with it, but this is my definition, and I understand that many investors consider that as the thesis for investment as well. So, startup is that early stage venture which attempts illogical growth. I'm not saying that achieves illogical growth, I'm saying that one that attempts illogical growth. Right? So that is what a startup is. So again, I come to the example of Airbnb or Uber. Right? Uber is a startup Uber, as of today, Uber is the largest taxi service provider in the world without owning any taxi. Right? In a matter of 7-8 years. Right? Nutanix went IPO in 8 years. Whereas companies beyond the age of 15 are still struggling to get to the PE level. Right? So that's illogical growth. You need to attempt illogical growth. And to attempt illogical growth, you need to attempt illogical things like selling door to door. You are underestimating the basic things if you are not doing that. Okay, this I am talking from a pure textbook perspective. So how do you achieve scale with technology? Your product should, from day one, you cannot. Yeah. So from day one, your product should have the genetic features of scale. Right? You don't need to build scale from day one, but you need to have the genetic features. Like when you are choosing tech stack, don't choose a tech stack because you know a certain technology. You need to do your investigation, right? You know PHP and MySQL. Okay, let's build a product on that. So easy to do, right? but that's not the way to do it. In FinOps, on the server side, I have used both Core Java and Node.js, the same application, because I'm using both languages to do things that they do best. I don't want to compromise on scale at a later point. Right? So Node.js has got some qualities, Core Java, another set of qualities. I'm using language that fits my need for that particular module. I'm using that. So we need to think in that way, right? Don't become a fanboy of a certain language or certain database or something like that. Deployment stack, again, we need to think about it, right? How are you going to deploy it, right? What's the kind of what's the deployment architecture? How are you going to handle? I mean, do you have an application server and a web server separate? A NoSQL database and a DBMS. How are you going to deploy it in AWS if you are using that? I mean, you need to have all those things because that's going to directly impact your cost and your scaling capability. Right? Modularity. Your product needs to be modular. I mean, by the way, probably deployment stack is too software product specific, but tech stack and modularity, it's for hardware as well. You need to be modular enough so that you can work around with it, adjust it. You have the options to take out some parts or modules, put some new ones. So architect in such a way that your product is modular from day one. Last one, DevOps for software, manufacturing for hardware. If these two don't scale up, then you don't scale up. Basically, even if you sell 100 units of your product and you don't have the manufacturing capability, you fail. So make sure that you check all these points and see whether your product is having scalable genetic features. There's another part. Always hire smart people who have the mindset to scale up. We again underestimate the importance of hiring good talent in startups because we have the resource limitations. We cannot pay them high enough, especially in an ecosystem like this where other companies are paying and more. So you need really smart people to create products with scalability built or architecture. They need the mindset and the know-how. So this is specific to hardware startups. So how many of you are hardware startups here? Then this doesn't apply to you, but if at some point in your life you apply or you're planning for a hardware thing, make sure that you have enough capital. Hardware requires a lot of capital, right? Their capital, every mistake is expensive. In software, you can go and edit the code, change it, use it. Hardware, it's not that easy. So you need to be sure that you have enough capital to architect or to do all these things. If you don't have the capital, I would suggest think about it. I mean, you should not be doing things that you usually do. So that's about scaling up from my side. Good luck to you. These are my social media handles. Connect me there. You can. I sit at PayU. So if I'm at Trivandrum, I'll be there. Ping me and we can meet, discuss things. That's it. Any questions? Hello, Nancy.
very casual event. You're supposed to ask questions. He's there.
Okay, actually, attempting that illogical thing, it's all about sales. So I would recommend going through that essay. It's a very long essay, and I'm sure Sandeep will be talking about those aspects.
Which aspects? Sorry, I was
Setting.
I will try.
That's it. Okay.
You mentioned about tech stack. What kind of technology we use for developing the solution in one of the side?
So,
You mentioned like you should look at.
so you need to research on the kind of requirement you have for your product. So, for example, when we developed a VoIP solution for ThoughtSoft, and ThoughtSoft's VoIP solution is what sits within AT&T, Starhub, all those big guys, right? So for text parsing, we used Perl, right? For web services, we used Java. For some of the call capabilities, we used C. So what I'm saying is, okay, here's the thing: there is nothing called Java engineering or PHP engineering, by the way. There's only software engineering. You need to adapt to languages as per requirement. You cannot say that I know PHP best, so let me build an entire product using PHP. May not suit. So you need to do your research on that. There is nothing like this particular language is used for e-commerce website. They always use a mix of languages. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Over to our second speaker, Sandeep.
First and foremost, thanks to Manoj and the team at PayU for giving me the opportunity. My name is Sandeep, founder at Bureau Business Solutions, based out of Trivandrum. Thanks to my friends in the entrepreneurial community as well for coming out. And just a heads up, this has got nothing to do with selling. This has got nothing to do with technology. I'm just trying to take you through a journey that I've personally experienced. I'm trying to draw an analogy with something that's quite close to my heart, okay, and what I kind of enjoy. So that's why it'll be a little enthralling. The startup journey is going to be a little enthralling, but at the same time, it's got to be taken with a cautionary pinch of salt. Can you guys identify any of these cities? Okay, so top left is Rio. What about this one on the right? Rio is correct. What about the one here? And the one here? Cape Town. Maybe I should make him stop, right? So that's Cape Town. What about this one? It's difficult, right? Anyway, so what's common among all three of them? Water. Somebody said water. Great. Anything else? Yeah, so what's common apart from the water?
Land.
Perfect. Somebody's really smart. Okay, maybe we'll come back to it later. So that's Rio, that's Cape Town, right? So a lot of wise men keep talking about starting up, right? So I've captured 3 of them here. Reid Hoffman said an entrepreneur is someone who jumps off a cliff and builds a plane on the way down. Very intelligent. Ben Horowitz said, in my experience as CEO, I found that the most important decisions tested my courage far more than my intelligence. Typically, you tend to associate people with he knows to code, and that's why he built a $1 billion business. But sometimes it's about making the decision, not just pure intelligence, right? Well, I love Branson. Branson said, you don't learn to walk by following rules. You learn by doing and falling over. That's trial and error. Let me tell you, all of these people didn't start putting out nuggets such as these when they were running their businesses. Hindsight is always good, right? So it took them 10, 15, 20, 30 years to become really good at what they're doing. And then they're able to say that, oh, this is what I went through. You read any autobiography, any biography, there's the same insight that you get. So now you understand the 3 pictures that I showed earlier. So one is Rio de Janeiro, like you pointed out. The second is Bali. And the third is Cape Town. And all these 3 cities have amazing surf. Have probably some of the best surfing spots in the world. So my analogy for startups that I like to compare to is surfing. So okay, my disclaimer is I took a very few number of surf lessons, probably got 5-6 waves. But I enjoy hanging out with surfers and surf sports. So you always hear in the startup community saying that go big or go home. Go big or go home. That's great to say, but it rarely happens. So I'm a little bit of a cynic now, okay? The first part is about getting ready. So you need to first know how to swim. You really need to know how to paddle. And you need to know how to go under. So this is all from a surfing context. So going under is when the wave is too big, you lie low, you go under the wave. Now, if you were to compare it to what you might want to do before you do a startup, it's always good to do a corporate gig. Because you're testing the waters, you're understanding what you're good at, you're understanding teamwork, you're understanding process, how large organizations work. Because if you aspire to build a large organization, it's always better to know how large organizations work. It's always better to be in one, right? Doing a few internships, find a few mentors to kind of nurture you. So that's how you get started. This is the problem with most people. I know tons of people who could be entrepreneurs, could be brilliant entrepreneurs. But guess what? They're all sitting in the sofas watching Netflix. So getting out of your comfort zone is a very, very big step. That's more than half the battle. Because then you have put it in your head that I'm going to figure it out. Right? So that's typically in surfing you call it as swimming out. You should know when exactly to swim out. What are the risks? I mean, you are an entrepreneur, you're doing a startup for certain things, but Everything has a risk mitigation plan, etc., etc. With surfing, death, drowning. That's the worst thing. Then you can have serious injury, fatigue. You could have a shark attack, like this incredibly famous surfer called Bethany Hamilton. She had a shark attack, she came back to be like a surf champion, right? Then you have the changing tides. You need to know what swell is happening where, etc., etc. A lot of things can and will go wrong with startups. Please take that for given. Nothing ever, but whether, like Rob was talking about, forget scaling up. When you're 3 people, a lot of things can go wrong. When you're 20 people, a lot more things can go wrong. When you're $100 million business, a lot of things can go wrong. So you need to understand to embrace it and not fight it, right? Yeah. So don't get killed. The analogy is don't get killed mentally, emotionally, or relationship-wise. And I mean all relationships, right? Your spouse, your parents, your friends, your ex-colleagues. I think this is something that, like, just like Reid Hoffman, Ben Horowitz, I kind of wish that I found 1 or 2 mentors 10 years back in my career, because I think that would have made a big difference in my progression, in my trajectory. But finding somebody who's better than you to guide you along the way, that determines your success, right? Not just on the project or on the startup that you're doing, but from an emotional standpoint, somebody should be able to relate to what you're going through, right? Somebody who's done it before is important. So you got to learn from them. And it's the same point that Robin said, are people smarter than you? Because it's a collective responsibility. So if you cannot find people smarter than you, then you've failed already without starting up. You would have at best 1, 2, 3 skills. A business or a startup is more than 3 skills. So you need to find those people initially. You need to find those people who can wear different hats. But once a startup reaches a particular scale, you need to find those people with serious depth so that they know what to do next, right? So I think everybody knows about this, right? How much can you hold your breath? Basically defines your soil rate. And it's an iterative sort of thing. You need to keep working it all the time. When you look at startups, a lot of them fail because they're out of cash. So they don't get the product market fit right. They keep iterating. They run out of cash. They die. So how do you ensure that you don't run out of cash? Robin talked about Airbnb. I was just fortunate to have worked with one of the co-founders of Airbnb a long time back. Airbnb sold cornflakes for Obama back in 2008 before the elections because they didn't have money. Can you expect a startup to do that today with all the cash that is flush in the ecosystem? So sometimes you have to do things which are completely irrational, but that is to keep yourself afloat, to keep your team intact, right? Fire the wrong people as quickly as possible. Again, this is hindsight experience, but if you don't do that, well, you're going to run out of cash. So it's your choice, right? So either you can walk the gangplank or you can push the guys who are not worth it off the ship. Cut your losses and move on. If you have to pivot. It's got to be a data-driven decision. Everybody says data-driven, this, that, and that. Eventually, it's a gut decision. You will get 80% data, 60% data, 30% data. To hell with it. Make a decision. That's what is important. So yeah, every wave, irrespective of how big or how small, you have 2 options pretty much. Maybe the 3rd option, but I think there's 2 options. So you can either swim under the wave or take a pounding. You might initially say, oh yeah, I'm man enough, I've set out, I've got what it takes. Why I would like to draw the analogy with surfing is also the fact that nature is the biggest teacher. Nature is completely symmetric in certain respects, but completely asymmetric in certain respects. But the thing is that the underlying fact is the waves will keep coming. So how are you going to go past that to surf? Find your way, right? So the biggest thing about surfing is like, when you start off surfing, you start surfing in a longboard, especially because I'm short and I'm fat. They give you a really long board, right? So it's about first, I used to do a lot of bodyboarding back in Kollam when I was a kid. So bodyboarding is very easy. But surfing is a different ballgame altogether. But standing up is all about balance, about the right timing and all that kind of stuff. So you are unlikely to stand up on the first board. Similarly, your first product is not an MVP. It's probably MVP minus 3P. So you have to get to MVP, and then you have to get to MP, something which is marketable, something which is sellable. Right? So startups always pivot, take that for granted. I hope I'm not being too negative, but startups always pivot. Startups always have to change the hypotheses because everything is dynamic, everything is changing around them, right? Startups will always have to find new target audiences. They might find them because of serendipity. They might find that they build something which is adopted by a particular, I don't think, you talked about Twitter, that 120 word bullshit, but did they make Twitter targeted at journalists? No. Today, I think 85% of the world's journalists use Twitter. Largest news organizations use Twitter to break news, right? So sometimes you will not know who you're going to go after, who's going to adopt your product. Leave that to chance. Startups will always have external pulls. So it's very interesting. So the first time I really encountered a startup was back in, as in real life startup was back in 2005, September, October, when I was associated with the Sign Incubator in IIT Bombay. And this brilliant IT guy coding, doing this, that, blah, blah, blah. But I kind of realized that one thing, which was that some of these guys were hooked on selling a product or getting a deal with the then large player. One of them was doing it with Rediff, one of them doing it with Reliance, etc., etc. So sometimes you have to realize that the customer is always thinking it's probably not the right thing. A lot of customers will want so much of your time because they can't solve all your problems. But is that the direction that you want to go as a business? Is that where you will have that pot of gold? So it's always better. It's easier said than done, but can you think, not irrationally there, but can you think rationally, step back and say, what are my decision three options? I need this guy, but I can only service him to this respect. I can only service them to this respect. We have to make a choice in terms of can I service this customer fully? How much does he want out of me? Does he want this pound of flesh? What am I going to make in return? Right now, in future. When do I back off? Oftentimes you keep that process going on and on without really knowing when to stop. Right? But it's okay. You'll survive. You'll be fine. You'll have to get back on the board any which way. Respect competition. You don't competition is doing that. Yes, competition is great. But why is Amazon the biggest country? It's probably a country as well, but why is Amazon one of the biggest companies in the world? Because he has two stacks that are super powerful. One stack is the customer-focused stack. The other stack is the engineering product tech-driven stack. He doesn't really care about Alibaba. He doesn't really care about anybody else. He just is executing based on these two stacks. Right? So, don't obsess on competition. Try and collaborate when the chance presents itself. I think ecosystems across the world, particularly places like India, will have to improve, and if they have to improve, there's got to be a lot of collaboration fostering among the startup community. You need to have, if this is a new product launched, there's got to be 30 startup companies that should subscribe to that product. Because that's what made value. That's what made Israel. I mean, I lived in Singapore for about 7-8 years. I didn't have that ecosystem in Singapore. Right? Now they're saying it's better, but you have to collaborate with people in their own ecosystem. This is very important. Don't jump from a beginner break to a pro break to a ready. So you've got different breaks in surfing, right? So you've got breaks where the pros surf, breaks where the waves are smaller, etc., etc. So you need to really understand which level you're at. You calibrate yourself on that, whether it is user acquisition, whether it is performance load, whether it is on product accessibility, whether it is on brand. I don't know, the criteria you can kind of set. But that's when you make that tectonic shift. You don't straight away go from 1 to 9, because then you know what will happen? You'll run out of cash. You'll fail. Before that, you'll run out of cash. So you want to protect yourself against that. So yeah, you will exhaust your capital, energy, and tire out your team. You don't want that happening. Yeah, so a lot of people, just like I was talking about getting off your couch and swimming off, a lot of people think that there is a perfect way. There is no perfect way. It's just like riding a bicycle, running, practicing for a marathon, etc. Startups are exactly that. There is no perfect way. We just keep doing, and then you will get there, right? So there's no perfect way. The first wave I put was probably like 1.5 feet or 2 feet. It doesn't matter. It's a wave, right? That's the thrill, right? So you perfect your craft, which means you keep paddling, you keep increasing your lung capacity. And why is lung capacity so important in surfing? Lung capacity is important because when you're swimming out and a wave crashes, you need to be holding your breath underwater, because the wave is going to crush you. And you won't be able to come up for water, right? Which is similar. You say as a startup entrepreneur, you want to keep your cash, you want to keep at it, and you want to keep going at it. You surface when you're ready to surface. So that's why you need to increase your lung capacity. Then you keep pushing for larger breaks, which is what Robin mentioned earlier, which is, do you want to run a lifestyle business or do you want to scale a startup business? It's a choice that you have to take. I think both are equally acceptable, because whatever you're doing it for yourself, right? So you can, the first business idea that I wanted to do was I wanted to open a juice shop in the company that I used to work at. I thought it was a good business because from 600 employees we go to 3,000 employees, and maybe after 2 years I could franchise it out. That's a decent business. There's nothing wrong in that business. Even if you have one juice store serving 2,000 employees, that's a good business. Or you want to build a company that sends juice to your house and puts it in the juicer. They will bust, right? Juicer, no, but you get the drift, right? So either in the product business or in the service business, people have this impression that you're going to arrive as Hollywood stars, like red carpet, black limo, blah 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 blah, all the paparazzi around you. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen because you're either building the next product feature or a new product, or looking to acquire the next 1, 10, 100,000 customers. I'll tell you one singular fact of why Facebook is so successful. Facebook is so successful because after their Series A and Series B, a lot of them had made incredible amount of money. The engineers had made incredible amount of money, each on share. And each of them were making $200,000 to $400,000 salaries. Mark Zuckerberg got all of them to sit and code on a Friday night, on a Saturday night, on Sunday morning. That's called singular focus. Right? So are you and your team willing to commit to that day in and day out? Only that is going to guarantee success. Once you ride a wave, then you will want to ride more waves. That's the upside. Once you get really good and you know how to ride a wave, you want to ride another wave. Then you want to ride a larger wave. And then you want to go across the world and keep riding the largest waves that you can find. Or the smaller places, the cool waves. It won't stop. It's like something that you will get addicted to. So that's why you see a lot of entrepreneurs who want to become serial entrepreneurs. Because they've understood, okay, what it is, how do I get there, what are the sacrifices they need to do to get there. Then they can do it all over again. It's not easy doing it all over again. But again, no wave is the same, right? So that's my friend, one of my friends, Mouli. He lives in Rio de Janeiro. That's his daughter. They both love surfing. They surf in and out. And you have to be very dedicated. So you have to wake up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, look at your app that shows, okay, which way, from which side, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. Any questions? Hope I haven't bored you guys. Not made it too negative. Any technical questions, please ask Rob. No questions. Everybody understood everything. How many of you want to start startups? Or are working currently in startups? Okay. Were you able to relate to some of the stuff that I said? Yeah? Is there a method to the madness? Is there something that you would do different next time around? When you feel that you want to punch your team member, pull the hair out of your boss. I see Robin looking at his colleague behind him. What normally is the biggest issue? Or the biggest among the issues?
Guys, how many of you can actually speak?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think we are not interacting enough, guys. This is very casual. He's there to answer. We don't need to feel scared of each other.
Sandeep, can you elaborate on basically the hiring of people that you mentioned? There is essentially.
Yeah, so I mean, it is difficult. I had to do it multiple times in my processes but I would try to first draw an analogy to the semiconductor industry. So, semiconductor industry, you have something which is an error. You capture an error before you design semicon at a prefab stage, and eventually that error becomes a defect. When you don't capture an error, it's going to cost the company some 30 times or 40 times the amount of money, right? Now, my challenge with firing is always to keep the emotions separate from the logical decision, and that I don't think it's a difficult part. Understanding who is performing, who is not, who has the attitude, who can get to where you want them to get to. But it's about, okay, how do I communicate to him? I know his mother. That kind of situation, right? What will he, poor guy, do for a living? So, 99% of all entrepreneurs in the world are extremely sentimental people. They might write all brilliant biographies that is hogwash in my book. eventually they're all extremely sentimental people, right? So in that situation, you either have multiple choices. You either get somebody else to hire the person or fire the person, right? Otherwise, you give them a notice period and say, listen, pull your socks up, otherwise you're out of the door. Or do stuff like reduce their perks. I mean, I know situations where people just make it so difficult for the other person so that eventually everybody has some amount of self-respect. So there are various paths that you can go on to get to the objective. Eventually for you, what should matter is the objective. Which path you take doesn't really matter. As long as everything is legal and ethical. Right? Haven't you seen George Clooney's movie called Up in the Air? Maybe you should go and watch that movie again. You should watch Up in the Air. Sometimes it's difficult, but I think in today's world, I think it's hiring, it's more difficult than firing. I'll give you another example. So this Dutch friend of mine, he used to work for Rocket Internet. I think he was with Rocket Internet in Thailand or Singapore. They hired like 450 people in a matter of 5.5 weeks. 450 people. But their approach was, I mean, back in those days, Rocket Internet was spending the maximum amount of money on Facebook. So Facebook should thank them because their IPO and stock price went up. But what their model was, it's a conveyor belt model. So you hire 450 people, but by the time you're 7 weeks down the line, you would have fired like 300 of them. So you can be as efficient as the Germans when it comes to firing, or you can be as sentimental as the Indians and then end up without any cash. Your choice, right? You'll get better at it. Just like I said, get back on the board, you'll get better at it. Any other questions?
So basically on the hiring part, so how to actually get the right people on board? So it's like when you are a startup, you don't have enough cash to actually plan the best grades. So what is the...
Okay, this is the part where I'm going to touch on what Robin was asking me earlier. You're selling a dream. You're selling a vision. You're selling a collective vision. But importantly, what you have to understand is you have to understand the psyche of the person. You have to understand what does he relate to. Maybe he doesn't relate to $5 million in his bank at the end of 3 years, 4 years. Right? So you have to understand his psyche. You understand his journey that he wants in his life, personally and professionally. And then you have to mind twist it to a shared collective. If you're provided you're really convinced that this guy is going to deliver for you, then you got to make it a shared collective vision and you got to sell him on that. Right? Very often what happens in Series A, Series B, that stage, you very often have venture capitalists, early investors very actively involved in hiring, right? So they vet the person out, there's a stamp of approval, especially when you come into senior management hires, they will see through your BS very fast. So then you need to have capital, you need to have the right institutional investors, you need to have the right set of clients. I mean, look at PayU. I can bet you that when they started off, they had a problem finding people and selling them the shared vision. Right? But as you go along, it becomes a lot easier. You will have other stakeholders that you can get into the process, right?
So when you're a person who can bootstrap it, you know your cash, and then you are hiring. It's like at the initial stages, you don't have that kind of like brand to actually people come out to you.
Sure.
To sit for an interview. So there's like you might have gone through a similar journey where in the initial stages it was tough to actually
Sure.
get those people get the first level of interview. So in order to sell that dream,
I still go through that. I'm bootstrapped, right? I still go there. So there, for me, it's forget everything about the skills and all that kind. For me, it is that X factor, it's the attitude, it's the fact that the guy was a backbencher. Or the girl, no disrespect. The guy or the girl was a backbencher. They can think in different regards. And then it's easy for them to go and tell them, you're going to work at TCS. How much are you going to make? 3 lakhs. Seriously. 9 to 6, you'll be doing some coding, some project. You will not see the result of it, you will not see the impact of it. So you will have to spin the story in the correct fashion. Right? And then you have to make it settle for 60% less salary. No swanky office, all that. But that's part of being a salesman. Every entrepreneur is a salesman. And the first person that you try selling to are employees. Because if you want to scale, you're not going to do it on your own. Right?
So what was the exact process you were going through? So here you go to colleges to hire, or what exactly was?
No, so when I hired, like first time was about 6-7 years back, I was going through my own referral network, right? So again, it's a question of, if I have to find people smarter than me for certain areas, then I use my network that I've built over the last 20 years. If I need to find, I should be politically correct, but if I were to find task monkeys, then it's a JV that's pushed out, and the people that you get from whichever tier college which fits your budget, go for that. But for people who want to give you that 5x, 10x sort of return, I prefer to go through a referral network any day. So then I won't have that up in there sort of scenario. Because there is an underlying, like today Robin knows and most of my other friends know, I've got in my holding company, I've got 3 or 4 friends who have known for 23 years, 22 years. It's very important because you're going through a lot of emotions, you're going through a lot of challenges. So if there is an underlying support system where you can actually sit down and have a drink or have a beer or whatever, that friendship keeps that business and not running out of cash for a little longer. Right? Does that make sense? It's fine, right? Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you for making us interact with each other again. So, guys, we are quickly going to go around and pick up the puzzle sheets that we gave out. In the meanwhile, Aardra, our third speaker for the day, is up.
Things are going to get loading real quick now. Just a couple of things. While I'm going to write down some things, help me keep track of what I'm saying because I lose track very quickly and very easily. And like if you've watched Finding Nemo, I'm loading. So that's kind of how this is going to go. I just want to understand who you guys are. I know like 2 or 3 people here, but I just want to know what sort of, what are you looking for? What am I supposed to be speaking about? Rather than me standing here going on and on. Because most of the major points have already been covered. So this is going to be like added fluff. So for me to sort of tailor it to you, could you just give me an idea of what you guys are doing? Just shout at me while I write. I can hear while I'm writing and balance it that way. So, you mind starting?
So, we are actually B2C kind of thing where we are like, so we have a brand, or we are building a brand called Team Hack, which is a health-related juice usually. So we were actually saying about having a juice idea.
Yeah.
So basically we are a health-related juice startup. We are planning to expand into
So are you starting up, scaling up?
yeah, starting up and scaling up, that's the theme.
How old are you? Not you.
So they started.
No personal question. I just want to know how old you are.
Started this 6 months ago.
Oh,
So that's
alright.
what we're doing.
So you're still like scaling up is still something you can prepare for.
Yeah.
Right. Anybody else? people with startups, working in startups, what age is your startup, what stage is your startup in. There's like two people I'd like to point out because I am a biotech engineer and I'm a bio entrepreneur. So I'm going to, like, most of what he said there, most of what Robin said there was like Greek and Latin to me because I'm, as I said, no tech. I don't even have a, PPT. So two people from my community are sitting there. If you'd like to just quickly tell us what you do. I'm sorry I'm being a little partial, but I'm like, we're in Techno Park, I know how they feel. So.
And then they actually have Dr. Shirley, and there's one more, that is Dr. Roshan. We are running a license related company that is working in the Cardiotech campus, Department of Biotechnology. We have university support and will be done 1 year the next month. So in 1 year over.
So that's
And we are mainly concentrating on customized research services in the life science field. Because we have got the many instrumentation facilities in our department and as well as from the university.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
My job. Right, I still don't know what I'm supposed to speak about. Any suggestions? You seem to be interested. How to find a perfect mentor? Okay, alright. Anything else?
So do we talk about some challenges that we face in
We
our
faced? Okay, alright.
And what stage is biotech at this point in India?
Okay.
what the biotech
I
ecosystem?
speak for my industry, yeah. What else?
How you
I'm going to be a pain in the ass to like capture on camera because I keep doing this and I'm probably on my shoes now as well. So this is how I usually roll. My shoes are off, I need to walk and speak.
Are you going to talk about something which is related to lean in?
Sorry, IP hardware protected. Did we meet at the Imperial College?
Maybe same.
Alright, okay. Sorry?
So what are the challenges you face as a woman entrepreneur?
Oh,
Considering
okay.
lean in and all that.
Right, there are 4 of us women in this room. I think 5 including Manasa. So,
No,
yeah.
because considering
I'll
the
speak
space
for
that
the
you're in, it'll be inside.
Yes, I will do. Thank you. So I think 5 things now. Challenges I faced as a startup. Challenges I faced as a woman. I wouldn't say woman entrepreneur because I count myself as an entrepreneur, not a woman entrepreneur. So that's 2 things. No offense to anyone. And the third thing was how to protect IP if I have IP. The first thing was how do I find a perfect mentor. And then one more thing. You said something else. Oh no, that's what I wanted to talk about. Sorry, that's the 5th thing. Right. So I have a company that's 4 years old. It's called Biochemicals. It's India's first fully women-owned environmental biotech company, which is awesome when I say it because it's good for the press, but it means very little when it comes down to starting up and scaling up and daily operations and things like that. I am in an industry. Oh, speak about my industry as well. That's the 5th thing. So I am in an industry where break-even is between 6 to 10 years. 6 to 10 years. Okay? So it's going to be something like rolling rolling the very big rock up a very steep, very tall, long way off hilltop. It's a long process. And I'm 4 years into it, which is like a 2-year-old, you look at the first decade of your life. My startup is a baby. My baby's still a baby. And I am now in the process of scaling up. We took a year and a half to set up our facility, which is a laboratory, a production unit, and the marketing team, everything. So that was a year and a half. And most of it, admittedly, was in the laboratory. So that's one thing. And then we brought our products to market. We brought 5 products out to market. As I mentioned, we are in environmental biotech, which basically means we make products to help clean up the soil and water. This is what we do, simply put. We brought 5 products out in the market. We focused on soil remediation, so organic agriculture, making the soil healthier, making soil of better quality. Not making soil better quality, making the soil quality better. And we brought 5 products out to market based on research we already had with us, 1.5 years of refining it, 1.5 years of testing it, working with our customers, getting their feedback and bringing it to market and being like, look at our products. We just made this, they're on the shelves. This is so cool. I was 25 when this happened. Okay? Doing the math, I'm 29 now, so 25 and a half when it happened. And I know nothing. So they said industry experience of like 20 years, of 30 years, whatever. I have industry experience of 7 years total. Like minus the time I took to do my master's. So 8 minus 1 is 7 years. So rich experience, varied experience. Out of 7 years of professional experience, I have 4 years as an entrepreneur. So this is what I've done for most of my professional life. I still know nothing. So I don't know why you're sitting here. You're there. The 5 products were well accepted. We got a lot of good feedback. We got a lot of negative feedback. We got a lot of suggestions. They ranged from, okay, so we have basically cartoons as our labels because we thought it's scientific products. You're not going to like pull people in if you have all the scientific data on it. So we use cartoons. Why not? And people were like, we don't want cartoons. We are grown adults. We want this to look like serious scientific products. And we were like, okay. We didn't change them. Another bit of negative feedback was like, you have 5 products for 20 different applications. Just tell us, we're getting confused. How do you use these? Make it clear. So either diversify your product range and make it clear to the customer, make it easy on the customer, don't make the customer work too hard. That advice we actually took. And they said quality is amazing, but we want this, and this feature in addition. And we were like, we can do some of that, incorporate that. So after a year and a half of that, so in total now it's 3 years, we brought out 20 products. We expanded our range of 5 to 20. So that was our first step of scale up. In terms of product, in terms of operations, we went from something like having 24 retail partners, and we're a manufacturing company, we're a product company. We went from having 24 retail partners in the first year of operations to something like 92 retail partners in the second year of operations. So that's sort of scale up that we experienced over 1.5 years of operation. Now we're looking at expanding into our second area, which is water, for which it will take us something like 5 years just to get a research project set up and started. So I'm speaking in terms of years, decades, entire centuries, lifetimes, etc. And when it comes to an ecosystem that we have like in Trivandrum or Kerala, which is a tech, which is a high speed, which is like things get obsolete like that, I'm basically a dinosaur. People don't care. Investors do not want to even see my face. They don't want to know what I'm talking about. I'll be like, I am in biotech, bye. Thank you. So this is the sort of industry that I work in. And this is where I'm trying to scale up. So what I'm going to say over the next 5 to 10 minutes might not be very relevant for you or for the work that you do. But I'm going to try and keep it generic and to what I know, so that if you ask me questions, I can actually answer. Okay? I don't know what Chandra did. I mean, I know what he did, but not in detail. So I'm not going to throw out good examples. I'm just going to stick to my example. That's okay. Now, a couple of things that I'd like to say for the last of these two. The rest of what I'm going to be talking about, in terms of scale up, be in biotech or be in the life sciences, define scale up as moving from lab scale to industrial scale, which I think is pretty much what every startup does. You look at something on a very small scale, you perfect it, you have a proof of concept, you prove that it works, you take it out in the world, you find the customers on that scale to sell it to, you offer it to, and then you try and do it on the second scale, which is like a pilot scale, is what we call it. So if you're looking at a test tube goes into one of those conical flask things, that's the second scale, and then it goes into a reactor, not a nuclear reactor, just a bioreactor, which is about 3 to 10 liters, then about 20 liters, and then about 200 liters, and about 200,000 liters, and then you're talking like big industrial fermenters of humongous sizes that can take up like Kerala Chandra's office. So that's how we scale up in biotech. And I think that for us, for Aardra, the journey has been very similar. We started out doing little things, got the handle of it, understood how to do it, learned, fell. So that's the 1.5 to 2 foot wave, I think. And then we went on to the second stage of it, like expanded from Trivandrum, which was our focus market, into Kerala, which was our secondary focus market, and now we're expanding into South India this year. So in terms of operations, we've tried to make sure that we prove to ourselves, not to anybody else, we prove to ourselves that we can handle what it entails and then scale up, and then handle what that entails and then scale up. So that's been our scale up journey so far. So some of the things that have, like expansion is what I've basically spoken about right now. We are a bootstrapped company. We took a soft loan from Kerala Financial Corporation, which had a interest subsidy, so we basically had to pay back the principal, but no interest. And that's all the external funding we had until we got a very small angel investor. And then, that's it. We're not being funded by anything else. We're not looking for funding. Obviously, I told you, no investor who wants to hang on to his money or her money is right now interested in us. So, investment is not something we're looking at for the next 2 to 3 years at least, which is fine by us because we're a capital intensive industry. We're a slow returns industry, 10 years on the line. I'm so sorry, but could you not do that? Slowly, I get distracted. Anyway, so in terms of investment, that is where we start. Identifying gaps, we spoke to the customers, found out what was wrong, corrected it, keep doing it, etc. Refining. So we take an idea, work on it, have something we can take to the market, they shoot it down, we work on it again, take it back to the market, they shoot it down, we work on it again, we take it to the market, so iteration. And then finally we have something that's marketable. And that's that. Risk, obviously, when you scale up. So for me, first generation entrepreneur, I put all of my savings that I had into the company, and I put every single paise of my salary back into the company right now, because I'm paid, right? Or entrepreneurs are emotional, I believe. So my baby, I want my baby to stand up on its own 2 feet. We turned a profit this year, so it seems to be working. I don't know. So this, I started as a lifestyle business. Basically, the idea was it'll be a lifestyle business. Last year, my horizons exploded. I went to the UK. I went back to the UK, did my master's there on a scholarship, came back, set up my company, went to the UK on a program. And I was like, environmental biotech is booming in Europe. It's a whole different ballgame. It's like I am playing with, my stick and my sand, and they're like rocket science. So that's now where I want to be. So what was initially in some corner of my mind, a lifestyle business, just expanded into, oh my God, I want to scale. So that's when this interest, this, I want more waves, I want more radical waves to serve. That sort of bit me and gave me the fever. So this year has been about identifying how we can find our direction to scale up, how we can diversify into water treatment products or anything else in environmental biotech that might be something of interest to us, how to build the team for it, because one of the things that we've identified is that we have a lot of skill we have a significant amount of skill gap because we're a young team. The average age is 30, so we're a very young team. And no, the average age is 28. Anyway, so we have a lot to learn, and we need good mentors, we need good guides, we need good advisors, and we've been building a network of that over the past 4 years. That's been helping. A lot of advice about hiring, firing, letting go of the people, pivoting when you need to pivot. All of this has already been covered, so I'm not even going there. That's all extremely good points that I learned the hard way. But those are points that everybody will learn in a startup journey. Anybody in a startup is going to go through that. And if you're really, really, really lucky. And I wouldn't call it lucky because you need to know this as you scale up as well. So that's, And we cover direction, diversification, defining risk, expansion, team. Oh, hire the people hire the people for the jobs that you don't know how to do. That's been some of the best advice I've been given. I still maintain that. Or if you can't afford to hire them, then have them on board as consultants. Be like, we can pay you a little now, we can pay you in equity, we can pay you maybe 5 years down the line, and have a legal agreement with you that we'll pay you out of profits. Work something out. Negotiate, which is basically an entrepreneur's life, which is basically anybody's life, and try and find a solution that you and the party you're negotiating with can agree on. That's it. Think outside of the box, do something radical, do something irrational. Just find a way to get it done. As an entrepreneur, I don't have to, tell you to do that. You guys already know that. All of this, I wrote down only to say this. When you start to scale up, you're going to be so tired. Because over the last year, my health's gone down the toilet. My work-life balance is not existent. I am constantly fatigued, and this has affected my role as an entrepreneur. Because my role as an entrepreneur, I don't know if anybody said this, but I believe is something like oil burning, lamp burning, coal burning. Because you're going to be the person who gives the energy, who gives the light, who gives the direction, who gives the push. You're the person whom they look to, your team looks to, your customer looks to, everyone looks to provide the momentum, to provide the motivation. And without you being able to provide that for yourself, scaling up is going to be tough. And for me, it has been as simple as just trying to figure out how to do this in a sustainable manner so that I can continue being a good entrepreneur, I can continue being a productive entrepreneur, I can make sure that I am not missing out on important signals, important market cues, important opportunities, important people to meet because I am too tired. So the entrepreneurial journey is exciting. It is amazing. The first couple of years of my life, I was like, oh my god, it's amazing to be an entrepreneur. If you want ever to be an entrepreneur, jump in, do it, this is the time for it, blah, blah, blah. I was completely evangelical about it. But now I'm like, well, if you think that you might be the sort of person who wants to step back when things get really tough and evaluate, then you probably want to do that 2-3 years into your entrepreneurial journey. And you should probably be ready to do that. You shouldn't be like, I'm such a failure because I don't feel like I can do this for the rest of my life. That's fine. This is your choice. This is your career choice. This is your dream. This is your, direction. At the end of the day, it's what you did. You started, you wanted, and you're the person who's going to find a way over, under, through, around. So, if you want something different, perfectly okay. And I think that's something that a lot of us don't hear as entrepreneurs. And my mentor, who's also my angel investor, gave this beautiful piece of advice last year when I went to him. And I was like, oh my God, I don't think I can do this anymore. He was like, well, what's wrong? I was like, nobody wants to invest in me. It's such a difficult industry to be in. Oh my God, it's such drama. And he said, basically, you're listening to everyone, which is great, but you're trying to go through that door. If somebody or everybody tells you, wrong door, go this way, take a right, and go in the opposite direction, you're not going to go where you want to go. You're going to go where everybody else wants you to go. So you're losing your direction, you're losing your passion, you're losing your focal point. And that focal point is basically, working in an industry gives you an idea of how you want to scale up. Working for a startup gives you an idea of what the journey is. So these are all focal points that keep you going. And if you sort of, if that sort of starts being a mirage or shaky, then you're going to lose your enthusiasm. I wouldn't say you are going to lose, but you might lose your enthusiasm, you might lose your staying power, you might lose that inner entrepreneurial fire that keeps you going. So take good care of yourself. While you're scaling up, you as an entrepreneur, you as a founding member, you as a founding team need to make sure that you know that you have limits, you know that other people can help you break or surpass those limits, that you know how to take help, you know how to ask for help, mentors, network. If you have a hiring problem, talk to other people in the same industry, talk to people in different industries, talk to people who are random strangers, but make sure that you get a lot of support, scaffolding. You might hear very unpleasant things. This is my experience. I hated getting advice. I'm like, I probably need to get over that if I ever want to go further in this journey. So if you're one of those people who hates getting advice, just know that doesn't hurt. You can write it down. Some of the best advice that comes in handy now, people gave me when I was starting out. When I had no idea what they were talking about. But now it's like, oh, that's what they were talking about. So you might speak to a lot of people, you might experience a lot of things which come in handy later. So just make a note of it and keep it. And there's no pressure. There's only as much pressure as you're going to put on yourself. And that's perfectly alright. So as a misfit in the mostly tech ecosystem of Trivandrum, startup world, I've learned to grow in my own little biosphere. I've learned to be kind to my opportunities and not be like, oh my God, you're such an idiot for missing that. Look at what they're doing. Look at what they're doing. Look at Flipkart. Oh my God. I'm never going to be like Flipkart today. I need 10, 20 years of growth to get to where they are now. I need to understand that. I need to be patient with myself. I need to make sure that I am comparing myself to the right standards as I scale up. Or at least comparing myself to achievable goals, which are as important as irrational goals, because that is how you mark your journey. That's how you keep yourself done. I feel good today. Done. Right? That is equally important as an entrepreneur. For me, it might be different for you. You might work amazingly under a lot of pressure. I used to think I did, but now I find that for me to do this for the next 20 or 30 years, for me to imagine Eka as something humongous, for me to work to getting there, I need to make sure that I have the staying power. So that's pretty much what I've learned in this last year as an entrepreneur, is that this is going to be a long journey, and I need to conserve money, because if you're not under-cashiated in the water, so money, how to keep money coming, how to keep energy coming from different sources, how to keep myself fresh, how to keep my team fresh, not, slog everyone to death, have fun when it's required, etc., etc. So it's mostly been entrepreneurial journey, emotional journey in the 4th year. And that is perfectly alright, is what I've learned. Now, just a couple of other things to finish up with. The F word and the L word. Let's start with the L word, because it's not as bad, which is luck. A lot of entrepreneurs are successful because of a good dose of luck. They have worked really hard, but so have, the 90% of other startups fail. I'm sure that a significant percentage of them also worked really hard. They found the right opportunities, they talked to the right people, they were ahead of time, they were behind times. There was probably at least 2 to 3%, I don't know, these figures are making up, at least 2 to 3% of the big unicorns, their success was influenced by fate or luck. So that's something that we have no control over. What we can do is keep trying, and know when to get out. And that's what being an entrepreneur is about, is what I have come to realize over the past 4 years. I'm sure that the definition is going to keep changing. This is probably the thing that keeps me up at night. Failure. I am a biotech engineer. I was the head girl of my school, which doesn't matter, but I'm just bringing it up to get to a point, I promise you. I competed in a lot of events. I was a distinction holder in BTech. I was a distinction holder in my master's in the UK. I was on a scholarship there. I am shit scared of failing. I will not forgive myself if I fail. I put myself under a lot of pressure, or even just act like an ostrich and put my head in the sand and ignore the possibility that I can fail, because I'm so scared to fail. I think, and I'm generalizing for fun now, that Indians and Asians are brought up with this sort of like, you need to be trying really hard to get the maximum you can. If you're anything less than 90%, they're like, so we, I think, are hardwired to look at failure as something which is a big sin or a big shame. And in an entrepreneur's life, as far as I have learned, you're gonna fail. It's going to be tough. You're going to make mistakes. I wouldn't say you're going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. I am going to do a lot of things wrong, and I'm going to learn from them. And it's going to make me a better entrepreneur. And this is something that's very hard for me as a person to accept, because my skin just goes when I think about failure. But it's not something that can be avoided. So when startups pivot, it's because they've identified something that's failing, that's not going too well, and then change direction to make sure that they don't keep digging themselves into a bigger hole. Similarly, failure, if looked at, I have learned, if looked at with not too emotional perspective, gives us a lot of learning opportunities. So, I am not a backbencher. I'm a frontbencher. I'm one of those people who, I am not a backbencher. So front bench that I was on the teacher's ass. Anyway, so I am the sort of person who will be like, I just lost 1,000 rupees on something. I am almost anally retentive to the point where my chartered accountant's office was like, why is there a 2 rupee, this, I don't know what, the toll pass? Why is there a voucher of the 2 rupee toll pass that you're claiming? And it's like, that's how I roll. I do it and I do it perfect. That doesn't work. I need to cut myself some slack.
I don't think you need an accountant anymore.
I don't think so either. But anyway, so it doesn't work that way. It's hard to micromanage. I try not to micromanage, but it's hard to be involved in the startup stages to the point where like, baby, my baby, is it sleeping, is it eating, is it spitting up, is it pooping, is the diaper wet? And then be like, scale up. You need to let go. You need to take a step back. You need to let other people who can look after your baby much better, like kindergarten teachers or nannies or whoever in this analogy. You need more people to make sure that your startup, your baby, grows up well informed, well educated, smart and capable, has friends of its own age. You see where I'm going with the analogy, right? You need to let go after first. It can't move or walk, and then it starts moving and walking, and then it goes to school. So that's scale up in my head. And I don't know if any of this has any relevance for any of you, but all I want to say is, it is an enthralling, it is an enjoyable, it is an amazing journey to be an entrepreneur, but it is an optional one. You opted in. I opted in. And when the going gets tough, I need to remind myself, I opted in, I like doing this, I may not like doing it tonight, or right now, but I do like doing it. So, just keep your eyes on the prize, keep going, quit if you want to. Come back to it after some time, like boomerang out, do something else, come back. It's up to you. Thank you. Oh, I'm supposed to ask you questions now. Any questions? I've talked at you so long, I don't think you have questions. You may oh my god, Chandra.
You don't sound like tired.
I don't sound tired. I am tired. I am tired. I'm ill.
You are really passionate about what you're doing.
I'm just so sleepy. I'm like constantly sleep deprived.
So where is your office located?
My lab and production unit, small scale manufacturing unit at Panicker. Let me give you this spiel as well. So we are a fully green unit. We have no effluents. We're solar powered primarily. There's no nasty stuff coming out of our lab or production unit. We try to walk our talk. That's basically what we do. Our marketing office is in Jagati, and we also have a small presence in Coimbatore with our partner there. So that's where we're located. We're trying to move into the UK. Let me be the first to tell you. We're trying to move into the UK for a water project. So I was there last month, and I had the most amazing time. So that's when I was like, oh, entrepreneur. Like opens doors that I never would have walked through otherwise. So I got to meet researchers who are working in really fascinating stuff, and be like, okay, this is probably the equivalent of you guys and Nard-Gassens, but I was like, oh my god, biochemical facility, which is like $1.4 billion or pounds. And I was like, in bio heaven. So things like that are now things that we look for and strategize and try to move into a goal. I completely veered off point, I'm sorry. Any other questions? I do know how to speak Malayalam, so. No. Thank you.
Thank you, Aardra, for literally walking us through your journey. Final speaker for the evening, Manoj. Thank you so much. speaker, and it's not so nice for us to start leaving when our final speaker is here. Not
Yeah. Bye and thanks.
That includes you as well, Aardra.
I
Sorry,
am
you can say.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
please excuse me. I'm so sorry I'm missing your session.
It's okay.
I hope to catch the video. I was like, oh, video is too.
So sweet. Yes. No, I don't think so. So I actually take from the last cue, which is left by the last speaker, failure. So I start with something which actually I stumbled upon probably 2 to 3 days back when I was moving through some of this, the normal readings that you do. I came across this guy called Bill Gross. Maybe, of course, most of us know who Bill Gross is. He apparently did a study on the success factors of some of these startups that we come across. Now, what are the key factors that attribute to the success of a startup? This is something which has actually crossed my mind as well. You of course, you own a startup, but you come across a lot of these startups who really do well, and some of them fail. But that is actually what really keeps us worrying. Why some startups do succeed and why some fail. And Bill Ross is actually, if you look at him, he's got successful companies to the tune of something like 100 companies he started, more than that, over say 20 years.
Startup factory.
Yeah, he's a startup factory. Starting from 1998, probably over 20 years, he's done over 100 companies. $3.5 billion of gross investments that he's done. That's just his money that he's put in. 35 successful IPOs of all these 100 companies that he's come out with. But still, what has worried him is the 40 failures that he had in all these startups. Now, why those 40 companies failed? In fact, he did a TED talk a little while back. You can find it online. It could be around, say, 6.5 minutes or so. But he was talking about this research that he's done over this 6.5 minutes. Why some companies succeed and why some companies fail. And some of the success factors that he's taken up as the variables for a study, where one is idea. I mean, that's the key factor, like why or how some startups come into. The team and the execution factors, the business model that each startup goes into. Funding, one of the key factors again that depends on the success or failure of a startup, and the timing. What he's done is he's put some scientific aspects to it. It's not as easy as you take a startup and attribute these factors to it and see how or why some startups have failed or once some startups have succeeded. He's put some scientific thoughts behind it, and then he arrived at what contributes more to a startup success. So if I may ask you this question, we have here 5 factors. What are the top 3 factors you feel would have contributed to the success of a startup? Is it idea, is it team or execution, is it model, funding, or the time?
Team, business model, and funding.
Team, business model, and funding in that order.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
probably
1,
2 or 3 or 3, 4, 5. I mean, anything else? Any other suggestions or any other things that you came across?
I will add timing also.
Timing is also important. But there are guys who get everything else right, but timing off.
Timing wrong. That is actually good. Now here is a study that he's got it. First one is timing. Because that was actually what was missing. So because we normally think that timing is absolutely missing or whether is it right or not. but that contributes to the 42% of the startups succeeding. That's just because it came out at the right time. Now, we've spoken about Airbnb before, we've spoken about Uber. Now, what Airbnb has done is, when it came across with this idea of renting out a room in your house where you're staying to strangers, was not acceptable. Because if I have a house, I don't want my room to be rented out to a totally different stranger coming out from a different world. So that was actually the thought behind it. So it will not succeed. But what happened was, it came out at a time when there is a slight bit of a recession, and the economy was not doing well. 2008, 2009 types, when people were looking forward to having some additional money coming in. So why not rent out your room to somebody who's coming in and make some money out of it? Timing was exactly or perfectly right. YouTube is a perfect timing they were talking about. When initially there was actually a startup which came out where they were talking about similar lines of YouTube, but then it didn't work out simply because broadband or so much of data coming in as traffic was not acceptable at that point of time. People had to just wait, or probably use a browser, code the browser and then do something of that sort. But when YouTube came in, it was like the same at the right time. It did click very well in the market. So you have timing attributing to around 42% of the success of some of these startups. Team, that makes to 32% of a startup being a success. You need to have a good cohesive team. And I faced it. I faced this in my startup. I had a co-founder with me, but when we look at the jobs or the responsibilities of each of us, we fail to realize that at some point in time, that job or responsibility that is supposed to be done is not being taken care of. So what it leaves us as one person doing the entire job. So then, how do you attribute the share in the company that he is being given, whether that is right or not? It's very difficult to attribute what share a person has to be given in a company, depending on what is or how much is he going to contribute to your company. It's very difficult because there is no mathematical formula that is there. But if you are interested, probably there is a book by Mike Moyer called The Slicing of the Pie. If you want to read it, probably somebody who wanted to start up a company, and you have 2-3 friends coming in and starting up, how do you attribute the shares in a company to? Probably Slicing the Pie will give you a very good idea on how to do that. It actually looks at the key strengths each person is bringing in. If he is bringing in his marketing skills, what are the number of clients that he is going to get in and the time that he is spending on getting the clients? Probably if he is a coder, what is it that he is, or what are the number of hours that he is spending in for your company to code the product and get the finished product across to you? And how do you attribute the money factor to the number of hours that he spent? Each of these skills that each of your founders have, you can actually finalize or fine-tune and bring it down to a number and get the number of shares according to that. So you can actually do that. So slicing of pie is actually, I found something which is very close to how you can mathematically slice the pie of your company and give what share each one of you are getting. So that is what team or execution is. I'm actually going through some of these interesting startups which has got some good ideas but have failed or succeeded. So I will take the example. So we have one classic example of why a company which is good idea has failed because the team didn't do well. Third, of course, is idea. 28% of companies succeed because they have a good idea. Business model, which again works out at 24%. Funding comes at last because you have the 14% of the successful startups who become successful because they got a good funding. Funding will obviously be coming in if your timing is right and if you have a brilliant idea. And there are enough and more funds in the market who can actually support you with your startup ideas. This is something which I thought which I will share initially. And some interesting startups that I wanted to come across into it because these have got some good study material. They have been put up as a case study in some of these places where why a startup has become successful or why it has failed. One is called Trafo Data. I don't know whether anybody has heard of Trafo Data. Their logo looks something like this. Very old. I mean, I'm talking about something like 1970s. Startup is nothing that comes out maybe in the last 10 or 15 years. We can talk about startups, a company which was formed out 1970s. That's how the visiting card looks. What they do is traffic ticket processing. What it does is, it is actually formed to revolutionize the traffic counting industry in the 1970s. You have your county or probably a state in Washington where you have the number of cars which are passing, so you need to take a number of how many cars pass through a particular road during a day. So that is what the problem which the state was facing. So you have some 3 brilliant guys, or rather 2 of them that came out and said they can build up a hardware. See, what they normally do is, how do they measure the cars? They have a pneumatic tube which will be put on the road. The cars will be passing through it, and because of the pressure, the air will be thrown out, which will be brought onto a kind of a ticker which notes the car passing. And at the end of the day, you take all that thing and then sit and see how many cars have been passed because with the spikes. So that's how you normally do it. It's highly manual kind of a work. So what these 2 guys who are high school graduates have come out and said they can actually make some hardware which can actually do this stuff. And they worked on it. And by the time Intel came out with their 8008 processor, they said, okay, fine, I'll find out a coding guy who can actually make a device and take out the manual intervention and then count the number of vehicles. And the device looked something like this at that point in time. So they made it. It took almost like a year for them to get everything done, and the day has come when the biggies from the municipality or the state are coming to see how the machine works. So everything was set, the machine was ready, the founders, 3 of them were there, they set the machine rolling, but nothing happened because it failed. It didn't do anything. So the guys got really pissed off and they said, okay, fine, we are not going to do this. It's almost like a year and a half of work has gone into to bring something like this up. And then the state announced that we are going to give this service free of charge. The state will be giving the counting of the vehicles free of charge to everyone. So what happened was this machine was not needed there. So because the government is funding and then anyone can come and make it and then the government will give the money. So traffic data failed. It took only a year and a half for this company, the startup, to fail. And the best thing is, they made a visiting card. I haven't shown the bottom part. That's how the bottom part looked. The names there are pretty famous ones. The first of such a startup have failed. And this was the quote which was given by Paul Allen in the Fortune magazine after that. Even though Traffic Data wasn't a roaring success, it was a seminal in preparing us to make Microsoft's first product a couple of years later. So something which is actually taking a cue from the last speaker who said failure is something which actually worries. This shouldn't, if at all this gives a reason for us not to worry about failures, because this is one of the biggest failures. 1.5 years of hard coding work has actually failed at Traffic Data, but we have Microsoft, which actually talks about one of the great successes in technology. One more interesting one which I can talk about is webvan. I don't know whether anyone has heard of webvan. This is actually the pitch which the CEO was doing just before the webvan was rolled out. This is an actual presentation which was being done. Webvan, we can compare it to something like an Amazon. They do this delivery of groceries and vegetables way back in 1999, I'm talking about. So, look at the business plan. Looks good in paper. The order size, they were talking about is something around $100. The cost of goods will be around 70, so they make an easily gross margin of around $30. The cost to fulfill and deliver will be around $20, they make a margin of around $10. Very good on paper, so $10 per order is going to be the gross profit. So that's the presentation that was made. Founded by Louis and Tom, they're the Borders. You know the book store called Borders. They're the same guys who started this in 1996. Borders is sold to Kmart in 1994, and after 2 years after they formed this company. The vision was similar to the modern day Amazon. 30 minutes delivery and all free of charge. 1996. Raised around $1.2 billion by then. First order by June 99. They waited For 1 year, 2 years, the average order was still hovering around $80. So you put $80 in place of 100, you can see the loss there. That loss kept accumulating. And to top up, what these guys were doing is they were making huge manufacturing plants. In the sense, not manufacturing, the storing plants. They have around something like 355,000 square feet of space which they have taken on their own cost to expand. So this is something what they should have planned much before. When we now, the hindsight, we can look at they were splurging money to acquire spaces and then storing products. But the daily expenses have been ballooning at $1.8 million. That's a daily average expenses that they will be having. This is a YouTube link. You can actually go through the link, which actually talks about their entire cycle. It's amazing how they take the order, they process it. It's entirely a technology-driven company at that point in time. Everything is automated. You can see the trays moving, barcoded, getting into frozen, one section getting into the frozen side of things, one is into groceries, till the time this guy picks up and delivers it to the person who's ordered it at their house. Everything happening in 30 minutes time. But unfortunately, the customers at that point of time were not ready. Probably the timing here was a factor, which was what we have started with. When Bill Ross said around 42% of the success startups become successful because they time it right. But here, the timing was wrong. People were just getting into the feel of ordering things online. But even the housewives who are probably working women who used to order things online, they feel that other people might think that there is something wrong with them. You sit at home and order things rather than going out and getting stuff for themselves. So this was one of the things which is slightly was off time. Having said that, a brilliant idea, but then a sad story that Webvan has to close down. And it just didn't pick up. Bringing another one, where the team thing was being highlighted, is government works. This is what their website looks like at that one time. They had a website which takes up whatever the citizen wants to do in terms of the government thing, they can actually do it through their website. It's the online payment for parking tickets, utility bills, property taxes, anything what you want to do with the government, you can actually do it through this site. These were the founders. It's all started with an idea when Tuesman had got a parking ticket which he forgotten to pay, and they had an altercation. While taking the vehicle, the parking fine was actually from $80, it was moved up to $540 because he forgot to pay that. So he had to find out a way to get all these payments automated so that people who have forgotten to make the payment or who are looking for easy ways of making payment can actually do it through this site. So that's how the government works have started, GOV works, and all citizen transactions can be done through this site from which concerned with the government. The investors at that point of time included people like the from KKR. So he was also part of the investment bucket who actually put money into government works. They were actually doing quite well till the time when they became a little arrogant with their dealings with the government. What happens was they know that the government is getting so much of money, getting so much of their work done, so they were slightly becoming a little arrogant in their attitude towards the government. To the fact that one of the states which they wanted to develop this site for that particular state, they spelled the site wrong, in the sense that the state, the spelling of the state wrong in the site, which is a criminal thing which you can do. Then, one of the orders which they were about to get, even before they got the order, they went public saying that they got the order. This is one of the writings which have come in one of the magazines when they said they were getting into a new state for this same government works. This is how they put it: work with us not, we don't care, we are coming to your city anyway. So this brings in a factor of arrogance with team issues as well. Both Tuesman and Herman were not getting along well. Tuesman finally had to fire Herman so that he can run the company on his own. So all these things have happened. Just because of this, government works actually had to close down. And the investors were actually finding it really tough to manage Tuesman. And in fact, a lot of orders which have actually wanted to go to government works have moved on to their competitor. finally and then ending up with no money. Their staff strength have gone up from something like 20 to around 250 in a span of like a year or so. So they were not able to manage their costs, and finally with the team splitting, they were not able to maintain the company as well. So that's the end of GOB Works. It took something like what, 3 years or 4 years max to get this company shut down. Again, back to the factor of team and execution, resulting in one more company failing. Home Hero. Again, a brilliant idea. This is what Home Hero does. This is their website. What Home Hero does is they're the fastest and most affordable way of families to find quality in-home healthcare. But this is a non-medical healthcare which if anyone want to do for their own family members, they can actually get in touch with Home Hero and they will find a hero. I mean, the staff which you can see there in their uniform, the white uniform is actually called the hero. So they will actually interview this staff and bring them home who will actually take care of the old ones for the non-medical needs. If you want to take it out for a walk, if you want to buy something for them, they will do everything. And in a most affordable way, that it can be done. And moreover, this is not something of a unique idea. There were more companies in the US who were doing this. But the fact is that they were doing it with a charge of 30 to 40% less than the competition. The caregivers were paid 25% more. Caregivers are these heroes. They were paid 25% more. Senior citizen population will increase by 75% at 2030 fastest affordable way, $84 billion market. Huge number of unsatisfied customers and caregivers in the market whom these guys are catering to because you are paying 25% more to the caregivers, so you can easily pull them out from the competition. And unsatisfied customers, they can be charged 30 to 40% less. So I wouldn't mind getting probably somebody like this for my home care. So aims at operating, the market operated at around 39% gross margin, but these guys were working at 15 to 20% gross margin, but still with makeup on the volumes. So here they were talking about a very good story. If I've asked you, would you invest in Home Hero if this pitch was given? Would you have invested? If this pitch was made to us and we were sitting like investors here, and if I am from Home Hero and I say that this is the pitch which I'm going to make, I mean, I wouldn't find anybody who will be having a negative view of this. Probably it's a good market to be in. We're a growing market, $84 billion market size. So I would obviously invest in this company. You go to the Home Hero website right now, that's a notice there. Home Hero is no longer accepting new clients or caregivers as of February 24, 2017. It's not working anymore. Now, what had caused Home Hero to fail? This is something we can talk about as an external factor. Home Hero raised close to around $23 million in fundings, but the change in the employment model in the US, where they changed the model from 1099 contract, which is what you give to workers whom you take on contract, to the W2 model. W2 model is a worker compensation model. The cost of caregivers have immediately shot up. There's one ruling where you're talking about paying a caregiver 25% more, got swept away in one ruling. So they were not able to get the price attraction which you were highlighting as your USP. So they were not able to get caregivers at 25% by paying them 25% more. They were not able to keep the charges at 30 to 40% less. So they will have to actually make a lot of caregivers redundant in the market. They had to send them away. They were not able to manage the costs, and Home Hero had to shut down. So they were not able to run this with the fact that all these advantages and with all the $23 million funding actually just gone for a toss. This is some external factor which, of course, being startups, we will not be able to predict unless and until you have somebody in the key decision making section where you know that this is going to happen. But being startups, these are some issues where we will not be having a control on that. So that is the case for Home Hero. Bringing in another story is very interesting. Fred Smith. Anybody heard of Fred Smith? No. That's how he looked like. smart guy, might be very old now, quite flabby. What he did was, in 1971, he was at Yale. He had, as part of a business assignment, he had actually proposed an idea to his boss, to his professor, in Yale in 1962. The idea was a company that would deliver high priority packages late at night. So this actually will help avoid the traffic and get the packages to the person who's destined to promptly in time, and that too high priority packages. He gave it to the professor and it was shunned away. He didn't accept it. He said, "No, you can't do it. It's a useless idea." So he was actually thrown away and he got very low marks for that business assignment. Fred actually returns to his idea in 1971 after serving in the military. The operation started in 1973 and raised $91 million funding. I'm talking about in 1973 raising $91 million in VC funding for a company for delivering packages, priority packages. Now he's worth more than $2.5 billion. Does it ring a bell? Yeah, that is FedEx. So you have an idea which is actually thrown down by your professor whom you were reporting to or you're submitting the assignments to, and then you get on to that idea and then making it big. So that's the story of FedEx. So we have something here where what we have seen through, I could take only around 3-4 companies, but then the failure is something which actually you should get used to.
Interestingly, he started with one low-cost airport which served as a hub.
Yes.
So everything from everything had to go to the hub.
Had to go through that hub. It's a brilliant idea. I mean, it's all history now. So the failures, though you feel that you don't want to fail, but ideally if it fails, you actually learn from the failures and you want to do something good the next time. So there shouldn't be any hiccups when you see that. I mean, enough and you search the net, you will find enough and more companies who've got brilliant ideas but fail. So why should you shun away from failure is what my thought was. So I thought I should bring this across because this is a good forum where we have startups, we have budding startups, and we have companies who are actually grown, we have experienced startup founders here. So bring this point across so that we can actually think about success and failures as two sides of the same coin, but don't have to fret when you come across failures. So those are some of the thoughts which I thought I'd share before I go into my company workshop. And here are some of the facts which we thought about before we brought out this company. There's something of a study which was done by BCG a while back on the rural internet usage in India. 70% of the people use internet for social networking. Still, they don't get into and start buying things. Probably there could be a change here there because I'm talking about Geo would have been a disruptor in the market which have got some percentages here there for this. 40% still feel that their personal info is under risk, still, even now, because I don't want to share my personal info online because it's still risky. 30% believes online products are inferior. 25% believes it's hard to use. I don't want to use it because I don't know where to go, what to click and what to buy. So this is one of the data which really interested us at that point in time. And another ET headline which came out in 22nd August was dropouts in the shopping online market. You have 50 million online shoppers, but still there are 50 million dropouts. Why is it happening? Probably there could be the fact that you don't understand the previous data could actually complement this what is being thrown out here. And this is actually a study done by Google, Bain and Omdia. They've taken around 6 months to study this data. So this is actually a cumulative loss of around $50 million for the Indian online shopping market. One of the causes which they have mentioned here is this picture, which we all know it's a shopping cart. But in the rural markets, people are still figuring out what this cart does. Because we are used to going to the hypermarket, we put stuff these things inside the shopping cart and we go to the billing counter. That's not what the rural people are used to. So still, the shopping cart becomes something which I don't know what to do with things in the rural study. Very interesting sort of enlightenment that this thing has come out with. So the customer who's wanting to use the online stuff is still where to go, how do I buy and what to do. This made us thinking about the opportunity to create digital commerce. it could be housewives, it could be existing businesses who can actually, if we are able to create a portal where we can put in all the private services that are required, train them up and give them the support that they require in terms of trainings and of course the technical know-how, we can actually cater to the confused customer who actually doesn't know what to do and don't want to share any of their information online. So that is what Workshop does. And what we have done over the last probably 1.5 to 2 years is we've got our company incorporated in November 2016. We've got our portal January 2017. We got our portal. We signed up in Cyberplan, being one of the private service providers who have helped us with giving their services across, including money transfer and recharge services. We've signed up with Red Plus by getting their APIs of bus ticket bookings into our portals. We've got the introduction of Policy Bazaar to share the comparison of insurances, buying something which is very cheaper for them. We've done a pilot run in Trivandrum during March, October 2017. We've got some excellent feedbacks during the pilot run which was incorporated. We've got a platform change. We've got a wallet introduction done, online registrations, payment gateway from PayU. Thanks PayU for that. So we've got the PayU integrated with our portal during October 2017. Commercialization we've done in Trivandrum, we've actually got around 100 registered users at that point in time. This is being a B2B segment, but we could get tractions in around 25 to 30% of the customers who are regularly using the portal to buy stuffs. So we were getting our revenues in terms of transactions and registration fees. We were discussing with State IT Mission to get our product adopted in 2017 plus Akshaya centers across Kerala, which was finally signed up in November 2018. So we were actually now in the stage of launching in 3 districts, Trivandrum, Ernakulam and Palakkad. So we will be starting in Palakkad, moving to Trivandrum and then Ernakulam. So we have both rural and the semi-urban and urban markets covered there. Tie-ups have been completed with Mahindra Insurance Brokers to get their services. Wallet, we moved on from our own wallet to the XPay wallet during December. November 2018 this month. Signed up with Unimoney, which is ex-UAE exchange. So we have increasing the number of services that we can give in our portal to the B2B customers in terms of digit commerce. Credentials in a fact shot and really a snapshot basis. We are service aggregator bringing all the services under one roof. Enables entrepreneurs to enrich and standardize their offers to the citizens. We have seed funding, incubator funding rather for KSUM, and then we have got a seed funding from KSIDC as well. So it keeps us afloat. And that's 2 key people, and of course myself and Anthony is a hardcore developer, and I've been an ex-banker. Forgot to mention that I should have done in the beginning itself. 16 years of banking with the likes of HDFC, Citibank, and then abroad Bank Muscat, which is one of the largest banks in the Middle East for almost like 9 years. Came back and then I was into a fund structuring firm in Bangalore for almost 7 months. Then we thought of starting something. And I wanted to take this into a financial model, but that probably in the second or the third phase. Being in that, not wanted glad of an engineer becoming a banker. So no regrets though. So that's what we wanted each of our customers to become and become a workshop from here. And we have our office in KSUM itself. That's it. So thank you, and any questions on I hope this was not as not boring, but really interesting facts that I could share. It might help, even if it helps you to the tune of 5%. Happy to have that.
Any questions, guys? You have anyway given your mail ID if they want anything to ask, you can always reach out.
Thanks, PayU, for the invitation.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, friends.
Thank you, Manoj. So before we close, do we have Krishna Pillai here? Raskin. And do we have Shyam Kumar? So these were our puzzle winners. For those of you who came late, we would not keep this satisfied. A round of applause, please. I know we get people now. We are all tired, but Thank you guys for coming today. We hope it was a good session. We hope you were able to take back something. And thank you, Manoj, Robin, and Sandeep, and also Aardra, though she's not here right now. Thank you so much for sparing time and being with our audience today. Guys, if you have anything to reach out to, you can always write to them. His mail ID is there. We'll also share the others' mail ID so that you can always reach out. If you all are looking for a payment gateway, you know who to reach out to. You heard like certain good things from our speakers as well about us. We'd be happy to help you all out. We have some sandwiches and soft drinks for you guys on the back side here, and our speakers are here. You can always talk to them. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out today.